is Karen Ellery Jones, and today's guest is Chief Russell of the Sandwich Fire Department, and we're going to talk today about the new fire safety building. And I know we have a lot to discuss, and I want to thank you for stopping by today.
It's my pleasure.
I'm going to approach this as a resident and as a taxpayer. A lot of people out there really don't know much about the building the fire department needs. So if we can talk about why the fire department is looking for a new station, how much is it going to cost, and will it benefit the residents?
Okay.
I know that back in the original building on Route 6A was built in the
1955. That's when they opened it.
Right. Yes. Population was about 1,000 or so?
1,200.
Right. Today's population?
23,000.
Okay. So that shows a tremendous shift in population, and of course the town has expanded. So let's talk about the conditions of the fire department. I was down at the fire department yesterday. I was gracious. You gave me a gracious tour, and quite frankly, I hadn't realized how tight the accommodations were for the firefighters, but for all the workspace, everything. It was just every wall was covered with space. There was no available space in that building. So why don't you talk to me about the building, etc.
Like you just said, the building was built, they was open in 1955. Back then, they did 92 ambulance runs and 47 fires for the whole year. Last year, the fire department did 2,650 ambulance runs, I do believe, and over 1,100 fires. So you can see that we've gotten a lot busier, and we've gotten a lot more complex what we're doing. Back in '55, you just fought fires. Now we fight fires, we run the ambulance, we have paramedics and EMTs, they start IVs, they defibrillate. We have a dive team. We have an EMS officer and a fire prevention officer that goes out to the schools and educates the schools. They go to the elderly housing, give them lectures. We do hazmat. You know, tankers tip over in the Mid-Cape Highway. People spill oil and gasoline. Oil tanks rupture in their basements. So we're bound to do more than that. And we do shipboard firefighting. Up to 10 years ago, the Coast Guard fought fires on ships. Well, they don't do that anymore. So that's another job that the fire department has undertaken. And unfortunately, our vehicles have gotten bigger. We have to handle more equipment, you know, hold more equipment. And in '55, the door sizes were 10 feet tall. The 10 feet tall, as you saw yesterday.
Right, yes.
In the new station, there'd be 14 feet tall. Having 10-foot tall doors limits us to the size of the equipment that we can buy, and it's more expensive.
Which is why sometimes when you drive by the fire station, you might see equipment outside.
That's right. We have 3 trailers there outside.
Right.
We're stored.
I always thought you were washing them.
No. They're stored outside on the other side of the police station because we don't have room. We have in Forestdale, Station 3, we have a Connex building that we store equipment in. So as you saw yesterday, it was very cramped.
Right. So let's talk about the needs of the residents here, because basically people are going to be saying, how is this going to affect me?
It's going to affect them it's going to allow the fire department to take those fire stations that are on the outskirts of town and put them in the middle of the town to better serve the citizens of Sandwich. Plus, it's going to allow the fire department to come up to the 21st century. And, you know, back in '55, most of the people that were hired, they were all call department. In the '70s, when we had they started a full-time department, they were all mostly people from the service, which they slept in an open bunk room. Well, nowadays we have females, which is not conducive to sleeping in a male. It'd be like sleeping in a bedroom with 2 brothers and your sister, and they're 20 years old. It's just
right.
It just doesn't work anymore. Like I explained earlier, we have more equipment. This specialized equipment needs specialized rooms to keep it in. Each time the ambulance inspectors come down, they cite us every year for not having an EMS room to store our ambulance supplies. And I think you have a a picture of that, you know.
Okay. When I was there yesterday, when you first walk into the station, there is just a little chair, and you had indicated that that's where people who need to have their blood pressure taken or who may just walk off the street with chest pains, that is where they will initially be seen. Is that correct?
That's correct. Last year we did over 400 blood pressures, and as you, we have a picture of that also. And in that orange chair is with somebody with chest pain or somebody that might have a cut. If they drive themselves to the fire station, which we don't want, we would rather they call 911 and go out to them. But some people do come to the fire station, and that's like our first aid room. And you saw yesterday that chairs out in our dispatch area where everybody comes in, people from building permits to oil burners to smoke detectors, and you saw how close it was to the secretary and the lockers, and there's no privacy for the person that needs that first aid.
It's not as though the chair is in a big area. It's a very tight, almost like a passageway.
You have room for a chair, and that's all you have.
Okay, so I know that there's a lot of needs, and the new facility, if it's going to be built, will be in, quote, the Golden Triangle area?
Across the street.
Across the street,
at the corner of
that's
Quaker
right.
Meeting House and Cotuit Road.
Okay. Why don't we talk a bit about the new facility and what that will...
Well, the new facility, for example, the EMS room, will have a private area where somebody coming in with chest pain, we will take them to that area, and the public won't see it. I mean, there's that privacy. Or if you have a cut. Also, we have SCBA room, where you saw yesterday all that equipment is just out there in the middle of the apparatus floor, and the oxygen tanks that you saw yesterday right next to the ambulance, which is really not the way they should be.
Right. So will you have more bays? Tell us about, you'll be able to store all your equipment in an actual building.
Hopefully. Yes, we will have more bays, because what we are doing is we are closing the 3 fire stations and taking it down to 2. There'd be one at, like I said earlier, Quaker Meeting House in Cotuit, and one at the high school where the outdoor rink is.
Okay.
Right there.
And that's right where the outdoor rink, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So they'll...
And that's more centralized for the town geographically.
Okay.
And the population has moved since the 50s, where it was downtown in East Sandwich and Forestdale. It has migrated to the center of town now.
Okay. Getting back to the building, you will have larger rooms for the firefighters who are on a 24-hour on, 24-hour off cycle.
That is correct. And they will have their individual bedrooms. There won't be any sharing. Well, there would be a sharing if there's a major storm, because we bring people in. But for the day-to-day operation, they would have, a bunk, and they wouldn't have to bunk room, or that they wouldn't have to share with a female or a male.
Right. Okay. I think a lot of people are going to wonder, okay, we're going to get this new joint public safety facility. You're closing down the main station on Route 6. People are bound to say, okay, you're closing that down. How is that going to affect response times to those people who are in the village?
It will, unfortunately, it will increase response times to the people down in the village, but it will decrease response times to like Lakewood Hills and Canterbury.
Okay.
So it's it will increase response times to some areas.
Okay, and decrease.
And decrease some Lakewood Hills, Canterbury, the Ridge Club.
Okay.
That is South Sandwich.
Okay, in that area.
In that area.
Okay.
And if the development proceeds in a Golden Triangle, that's where all the, hopefully elderly and
they're going to have
better.
some mixed housing there
Yes,
as well. That's
hopefully.
right, and retail.
Yeah.
What is the estimated cost?
The estimated cost
I know
for
it's hard to-
both buildings is $30 million.
Okay. Average
I think it's I have it here. I think it's $20 on the tax rate.
Okay, that's exactly where I was going to ask you.
$18.43
Okay.
for the first year. The middle year is $13.92 per month, and the final year is $9.40 per month. The main facility at Quaker Meeting House in Cotuit is $27 million, and the substation at the high school is $3 million.
Okay, so this would be a 3-year increase in your real estate tax?
No, it would be a 25-year bond.
Okay.
So the first year would be $18.43. The middle.
And then this figure here is for the remainder?
That would be the last year.
Okay,
it would go
gotcha.
down from $18 to, in the middle of the bond after 12 years, $13, and the final year would be $9.
Okay, so residents can expect to see their tax bill go up for
About
some
much
time.
money a month, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for 25 years.
for 25 years?
But hopefully this building would last, 50 years. This one we're in now is over 50 years, so hopefully that would solve that problem for 50 years.
Right.
Because the town is built out, so, there's not going to be that much more building, except for the Golden Triangle, so.
Right, so there's it truly can't expand
That's right,
anywhere.
that's right.
I
Unless you
hadn't-
go up.
Yes, well, or go down.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized that the fire department takes care of fires on boats.
Yes, the Coast Guard, about 10 years ago, they don't do that anymore. They gave that up. In fact, we got a $900,000 grant from the Homeland Security, the police and fire, for a boat, because the Coast Guard and the Corps of Engineers are getting, I've been told, doing away with their tugs. So there's no fire, if there was a fire down the marina or through the canal, or let's say out in front of the beaches in Sandwich, it was an oil tanker, that would have devastating results for the citizens and the beaches. So that's why we got that.
Right, okay. Is there anything else that you think the residents of Sandwich would benefit from knowing before they're asked to make a decision on this?
No, that's about it.
I know that just from seeing the fire department inside, I am amazed at how you actually all work and live out of that small space.
The firefighters, when they opened Station 3, that's the Forestdale in '74, they did all the work. I know you haven't been there, but the front area that they used for first aid and
Right,
the greeting area was a porch. They closed it all in. There's a slide there of their living room, their dining room, bedroom, and kitchen are all the same room.
Right, it's like an efficiency apartment.
Yeah, it's smaller.
Yes,
Yeah.
very small.
But they did all the work converting that so that they could stay there. So, and they did it upstairs in the main firehouse at the downtown. They finished all that, the bunk rooms and the weight room that you saw yesterday. But it is too small. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You saw that yesterday. We're just, we're storing things outside, which is not good. We're converting bays to store emergency equipment, ambulance supplies, which is not good. And it's needed. And it's not going to be any cheaper.
Right, if we say no, let's revisit it. Because
That's right.
I think you had indicated that
back in the 80s.
In the 1980s.
They wanted to build one across the street from the Human Service Building, and that failed.
Right.
Yes.
One last question. I know that the size is quite large. I mean, I know that some people have questioned, do you really need it that big?
Well, if you, like it was just told to me, we have right now 13,000 square feet, and the fire site is going to 23. If you take and remember, you're taking 3 stations down to 2, and you're taking hopefully all that equipment that we have outside and put it inside. So, and you're giving each individual person a bunk room.
Right.
And there's going to be a training room. Right now, upstairs is a training room, kitchen. We don't have that.
Right.
And it'll be shared space. So, meeting rooms, we don't have a meeting room. If you have a conversation in the administration, everybody can hear you. The fire prevention and the captains are sharing the office. The EMS officer is using a converted hallway. The deputy is using a converted closet. So Yes, it's not that much room, but it is, you know.
So if folks wanted to take a peek inside the fire department to see exactly the conditions inside,
There's going to be an open house, I don't know when, October 20th.
okay,
From 10 to 12. And we are doing a seminar or a presentation after the town meeting, the
Okay.
22nd. And then there's open houses in November, and I forget the date. But
Okay,
yeah,
so
I'm sure they're posted.
immediately after town meeting.
There's going to be a presentation by
Okay,
the
will
committee.
people be able to ask questions, or is it just a
We're going to do a presentation
Okay.
and a short presentation, and then we are going to open it up to questions,
All right, super. So if people have any questions, they can get hopefully some answers.
hopefully.
All right, super. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Karen Ellery Jones, and today's guest is Chief Wack. Chief Wack, thanks for stopping in.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk today about the new public safety building. And it's a joint building which is going to house the fire department and the police station. And we had a discussion earlier with Chief Russell. And I'm going to approach it just like I did with Chief Russell. I'm a resident, I'm a taxpayer. What's it going to do for me?
Excellent. Well, in the early 1970s, the Sandwich Police Department was constructed, and at that time we had approximately, or we did have 9 employees with the police department. And those employees that used the office space were basically the chief, a sergeant, a civilian secretary, and a small dispatch operation. Today we have 35 full-time police officers and a secretary, as well as 3 part-time officers using the exact same space. The footprint hasn't increased at all. There have been a lot of changes as well, and in an effort to best utilize the space, we've had to reduce other spaces like evidence storage for vehicles. Garage spaces changed into a wellness facility where requirements were developed for physical fitness. We had to take over that space. We've had to manage the basement area for our IT systems, our 8 networks which run the entire Sandwich Emergency Services networks for the town of Sandwich, that 911 as well as the computers in the cars and the telephone systems and whatnot. This is a big undertaking going from our current facility to a new facility, but it's critical, it's needed.
Just like the population has increased, I think people sometimes fail to realize that the job of the police department, of a police officer, has changed. The equipment changes, the technology that drives public safety changes.
It has. In the 1970s, when our facility was built, the population was in the area of 5,000. As Chief Russell said, we're in the area of 23,000 right now. As the dispatch area has become more technical, here in Sandwich, we have gone from a small, let's say, closet space, which was dispatch, to now being a large room. They've had to convert what was the public's entrance area and waiting areas and the Chief Secretary's office into new spaces. We now have 2 dispatch centers or terminals working in that space. The idea is, with the new building, is going to more of a civilianized dispatch operation, bringing in the new technology, having the servers and the backup systems and the 911 components all stored right next to the dispatch station. Where all that is right now is in a floodplain. It's in the basement of the police department, which does regularly flood after a rainstorm, let alone a hurricane. So these networks are in jeopardy as it is right now. One of the important things that I really like to share with people who come by for a tour is the way we manage a prisoner into our current building is very unsafe. When we bring a prisoner into our building, we bring them from the outside through a garage, which is used as a normal garage, has normal components that you would find in your garage, into a hallway. This hallway is the only hallway in the building. It's the hallway where if you were to come in for a license, to get licensed as a firearms handler, you would be walking in that hallway. Or if you were being interviewed because you were reporting a crime, you would be in that hallway.
So you're mixing basically
a prisoner,
Right.
a prisoner with the public, as well as an armed police officer. There could be an officer that's moving through the building just under normal course of business with a firearm on, and they're walking right by where a prisoner is. In a new facility, as I've seen throughout this part of Massachusetts and Connecticut where I came from, the prisoner area is an entirely secure location. A prisoner comes into a secure garage bay, which we call Sallyport, and is moved into a secure processing area where the public and police officers don't have access to. There's no weapons, no guns, nothing in that area. Another issue that we have is evidence, how we handle and manage evidence. Right now, we do not have an evidence processing area. We don't have a good form of storage for evidence. We're meeting the basic needs. But with this new building, we would be bringing in modern day practices on how we process evidence, how we store it, how we secure it.
Okay. Tell me some other things about the new police
Well,
station.
I like to go back to the current building. Presently, we have a room that's about 11 feet by 14 feet. This is what we call our report room for our officers. 21 men and women share this room to eat their meals, write their reports, interview people, clean their weapons, and to process evidence. That space would normally be multiple spaces.
Okay.
We have sergeants, 6 sergeants that share an oversized closet as their office space. We also have a locker room where 34 men and women share this locker room to change every day in. There aren't 2 separate locker rooms. So the new facility, what have we done? We've used developments that have been brought to us from our architect that have been used in other buildings to give the sergeants their own office space. They each have their own cubicle space to work out of. We have interview rooms, so when the public comes into the police station, rather than having to go into a room which may be used to clean weapons, process evidence, or officers to eat their meals in, they would be interviewed in a small area which is dedicated to interviewing. Okay. We've come up with space for when you come in to get your firearms license renewed or you want to initiate the process, there's a specific place where you go for that. So you're not being brought into where a prisoner would be processed. We also have roll call in law enforcement at the beginning of each one of our shifts. We have the new shift meet and we go over what's happened in the last 24 hours, as well as we'll bring the detectives and administration in for those roll calls. The new structure, the new building has that space built into it, so there can be an uninterrupted briefing to the next oncoming shift. You know, and one of the important pieces, again, as I mentioned to you earlier, is the dispatch operation. It is a new facility, a new location. It has the ability to store the networks.
Okay. Just tell me about some of how many calls per year you handle and some statistics like that, so people can get a general feel of how busy you guys are, even though we're a small little town on Cape.
Yes. In 2011, we handled just under 15,000 calls for service, and also we processed just under 600 people who were arrested. So our booking room, our processing
Quite busy,
area
really,
is very
600.
busy. Correct. And as the trend goes, we keep getting busier each year as you know, as populations develop, as we move forward, we do end up taking more calls for service, and we encourage that with the public. If they have something to report, we want them to be able to report it.
Right. I know that I've been in the police department just to drop off something, and it does seem that when you first walk in, is it the dispatch is on the right-hand side?
It is, yes.
Yeah, it seems very congested. There's not a lot of space.
Well, with the conversion of the building, it's gone over the walls, the interior shell, the interior portion is what has changed over the years. Where the community comes in, their access in the building has shrunk. And so where we have 3 chairs right now for the public to sit and wait, it's actually going to get smaller because we're bringing in a drug disposal box, which is going to be available for prescription drugs to be dropped off. So the new facility would provide more space for the public for waiting, as well as public restroom, and also community room, which transitions over to an emergency operations center. In the event we have a hurricane, we generally bring all the department heads and different emergency services together to be in the same room to process the hurricane or the weather
Right.
event. Right now that's in the basement of the Human Services building. So we would have that facility, but it's also open to the public as well for meetings.
Right, so then you'll have one central location that you could have your meetings at, if there's an emergency.
Right, and the emergency operations personnel would be officed right in that space as well. They have their own dedicated space.
Okay. Can you think of anything else that Sandwich residents, might want to know?
Well, I just think it's really it's important to come to the open houses. It's important to see both the fire and the police facilities as they exist today, because I have heard from people who have taken the most recent tour that once they got into the building, it really affected their decision making, because they actually got to see what the environment was like. When we talk about the IT and 911 systems being in a flood area, they actually got to see it firsthand. When they saw where the men and women change, the fact that there's an 11 by 14 room that an officer may be eating their meal in while another officer is potentially processing evidence or cleaning a gun, they actually got to experience. So I encourage people to come see the tour, or attend the tour. But I think the new building is going to provide more space, the ability to do business better in an era where public safety is so critical.
When are your open houses?
Our next open house is going to be on Saturday, October 20th, between
Okay.
10 a.m. and 12 noon, and it's going to be at both the fire and the
Right,
police
so
station.
they can do two tours at once?
Yes.
All right, super. All right, well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you very
stopping
much for
by.
having me.
Okay, thank you.